They would not respond to that kind of questioning. They would have ignored it. But William did not feel he was able to ignore it. This was so serious that he had to respond. The kingdom's trust in their favorite royal couple is beginning to crack. They've done the unthinkable, stepping further away from the crown. The birth of new royals should have warmed the nation's heart. But instead, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex turned it into a battlefield. Now, many are left wondering why this sudden push for independence, and how did the palace respond to what it saw as betrayal. Join us as we uncover the controversy that unfolded within Buckingham Palace, concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born. There's a lot that I can forgive, but there needs to be conversations, and then, in order for reconciliation, and part of that, has to be accountability, controversy on secrecy. If there is one thing the royal family loves with all its heart, it is documentation. The British monarchy has relied on its centuries-old documents and procedures as the backbone of its authority. So naturally, it came as a shock to the public when the Duke and Duchess, Prince Harry and his wife, Princess Meghan, chose to completely disregard the very foundation on which their prestigious family stood. Without fail, every royal baby is introduced by ceremony, a framed birth notice on a golden easel, a meticulously staged christening ceremony and portrait, a place in the court circular, and a name inscribed in the official registry. It is tradition and is an essential part of grounding when a new soul is placed in a royal body. So what really happens when a notably modern couple suddenly wants to abandon this not once but twice to embrace unfounded independence? What effects does this have on them and everybody involved? Non-positive. These are not just casual events. They are considered historical. The royal family is known to never abandon its own. That is why the absence of Archie and Lilibet sparked so many fires within the royal family and the British people as a whole. This absence that was found after investigation was unheard of. In the history of the British monarchy, no high-ranking member of the family has ever disappeared without a trace. Why would the top brass suddenly entertain abandonment? And why was the palace saying nothing about it? At first, people brushed it off for the monarchy's no need for privacy. But privacy never meant absence, especially absence of two of the top 10 members of the household, two integral pillars for the future of the now shaky monarchy. Privately or visibly, all royals always had their existence reported. The neglect that appeared now had never been present. From palace insiders to public eyes, it became a hot topic. Why were these rules that were always known to be as rigid as anything, and even older than numerous countries, suddenly being bent for whatever reason? Rumors spread. Blogs and even tabloids picked up this new interesting topic, and various theories began erupting from this attempt of celebration that this royal couple attempted. A celebration of royalty. Public eyes are bearing down on the royal household on this careless manner of handling the affairs regarding their two newest members. But what does it really mean to be a child of the royal household? The art of being a royal child. To be a member of the royal household, one needs not just be related by blood. You need to be actually recognized by the crown. Royal blood doesn't guarantee recognition. You need to undergo processes of archival formality and be embraced by the centuries of structure in which you are about to be introduced to. You do not just get a pass to being royal by inheriting genes. You need to be recognized by these laws that have protected the dynasty since the birth of time. It involves 3 very important steps to be recognized as truly being royal. One is being born into the legitimate royal bloodline. The second is that the birth must be formally recorded and recognized by the palace. And the last is being baptized in the Church of England. These steps each hold a great deal of importance for the very religious-based royal household, not just in image, but at the very core of its build, miss one. And in all truth, you may as well just be considered British with importance, not British royalty. The Buckingham Palace has depended on these for decades. And through this framework, children like George, Charlotte, and Louis were not just offspring of royals. They were recognized as royals themselves. They were not just born into privilege. Their identities were cemented in ink. They were bound by official seals, present in the registries, and had their presence in every other documentation necessary. Every royal knew and recognized these children as one of them and the public. They were clear about who their leaders were. Then came Harry and Meghan, whose love and modern family building had come out in an attempt to fight off these rules. A true anomaly. It was suddenly old-fashioned and outdated to have your royal child be known as a royal child. It became the type of situation where their personal opinion clouded their knowledge, the knowledge that just having royal blood did not guarantee a chance at holding on to the word royalty. In their case, documents were inconsistently filed. Baptisms happened privately, and every part of their children's births happened in seclusion. And away from royal and church oversights, a true Instagram couple in all sense. Instead of their children's names to make proper appearances in the palace's registry, it made appearances on social media posts and personal releases. Nothing was done according to procedure. A modern couple with ancient roots exist in this very much ancient-styled background. It's really common sense to say that they wouldn't want their kids to suffer the same fate. The first withered branch. The first branch of the royal family tree from the section of the Duke and Duchess came in the form of a boy, Prince Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor. The birth of their first child happened in early 2019 in the month of May. This was also the birth of their attempts to sidestep royal rules and protocols. The birth of their attempt to prevent their children from going through the rigid institution that raised them. An attempt to make their child's life in their views of being royal, a royal without the burdens of being royal. Intentionally or not, for the first time in modern history, a branch of the royal family was engaged in this sort of scandal. This wasn't lost on the palace itself, as it definitely noticed a hole in its wall of commandments. Its stance was simple. A non-historically recognized royal is not a royal. Not just the palace, but rumor leeches associated with it became alert, too. Suddenly, the papers were brought out from the archives and became the forefront of gossip. It was an avenue of entertainment centered on the usually reserved and secrecy-loving royal household. The mystery of this birth became front cover, the first cracks in the wall, the birth of Prince Archie formed. This moment that sent ripples through the European world wasn't in interviews or public altercations. It was in the paperwork. It was present in the birth certificate of this newborn. A process which would have been a simple archival formality became a point of discussion. It contained a filing scandal. Meghan, whose name was meant to be filed as the child's mother, did not include that. Instead, it included just her title, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. It was an institutional stamp that highlighted her role as the princess over motherhood, underlying ages and ages of institutional procedures. To palace insiders, it wasn't just a simple misfiling. It was intentional and a red flag. It signaled a battle against legitimacy, dictation of independence, and a fight against royal ties. Did she really want out of royalty? Was she really prioritizing titles over motherhood? An argument grew. The media noticed things. Birth announcements and photos were published, but the child was missing from official documents and meetings. It was a representation of a child caught between worlds, being a royal child and being a celebrity's child. It was a truly strange occurrence. They began comparing records and generating theories that could have caused this phenomenon they were witnessing. A very huge crack formed from the moment when Meghan and Harry's royal narrative collided with centuries of immutable tradition. Archie's birth, meant to be a moment of celebration, instead caused stirs and speculation among the public. All these still didn't move the institution. They stood firm, but these noises only grew louder with the arrival of his sister Lilbet. 2 times the charm. Princess Lilibet's birth in June 2021 did not soften the issues this family had generated. It instead increased speculation, as the secrecy surrounding Archie's birth lit a spark of public suspicion. The circumstances of Diana's arrival turned it into a wildfire. First of all, when she was born in June 2021, it occurred thousands of miles away in California, solidifying the couple's physical and procedural distance from the crown. coupled with the fact that it was only announced days later via private social media. On her birth again, all the established royal protocols, which the monarchy uses to document its own history, were completely abandoned. There was no framed notice on a golden easel at Buckingham Palace, no official confirmation from royal doctors, and no immediate christening plan within the Church of England. More and more problems stockpiled, more and more Instagram posts instead of palace press releases. It was like asking the public to simply believe in the birth without any of the traditional evidence the monarchy had provided for centuries. This led critics to ask why the couple was being so secretive. Questions of if they had something to hide spread to royal watchers. The monarchy never forgets to file its own, and this complete lack of official ceremonial documentation for successive children was seen as a further weird break from tradition. 1, maybe a mistake, but 2, the demand from the public became simple. Just show us the proof. But the proof never came in the form that was expected. The longer the couple withheld traditional photos and official records, the more the public felt they were being misled. The more they referenced past events of royal childbirth, the more they presented questions to their now confusing leaders. The princess, whose name was said to pay homage to both Queen Elizabeth II and the late Princess Diana, was now just like her brother, a question mark figure in the family. Despite her name in itself paying homage to two huge royal figures, it was never enough to force her into royal regard. It was but just another name, nothing more. Two children celebrated and adored, but never acknowledged. A royal divorce without the paperwork, that was what palace insiders and those around called it, not just a silent walk away from tradition. They viewed it as a direct request of freedom from royalty from Meghan, whilst still wanting her child to inherit the title. In it all, they remained silent. They had no business with another child laying on the fence. This was fast becoming a hot topic, even for the masses. It was sure to affect the lives of those involved. Rumors now affects in the future. The double secrecy and break from protocol have created a unique and damaging situation for Archie and Lilbet, placing their very status as royals in a questionable state. Even right down to the rituals of baptism, which were to be followed, were not. Instead, it was said by sources close to the Sussex household that the children were christened secretly in an American church. Again and again, questions developed. Were this Americanized new blend really fit to be at the top of the monarchy one day? And why the silence from the palace regarding the issue? By choosing to handle the births and christenings privately and outside of this established framework, Harry and Meghan effectively rendered their children invisible in the eyes of the institution, one that has tangible consequences for their future. There is so much that comes with being underneath the crown. It's so different from being just associated with it. Imagine a supposedly royal child being denied the security that comes with the title, but still being granted the full brunt of the fame. A paradox where the child is globally famous but not acknowledged, viewed by the world but invincible in the one place that truly mattered. Without marking the required checkboxes, their names were placed beside the image of the crown, not beneath the crown itself. Archie, who was meant to grow up to be the sixth in line to the crown, would live in a reality where this title would be passed to another. He is not recognized by the church. The monarchy had nothing to offer to one not recognized by the church. He had come into this with life taking a lead on him. Perhaps the most struggling of rumors that emerged from this was of Harry and Meghan not being the biological parents of these children, or more accurately, Meghan not being their mother. Surrogacy rumors spread from nowhere. It came from the masses wondering why a mother would put the future of her own children in such jeopardy. They concluded that perhaps yes, maybe the children weren't indeed hers, and she was doing this as a get-back at the prince and his family for making her carry a foreign child. Twice, a direct stab at the image of this media personality mother, a mother whose life was almost fully dependent on her image. This image would eventually be caught in a crossfire, a self-inflicted image injury, a sure accident on her part. Meghan Markle definitely didn't think deeply on the ripple effects these rumors would have on her now blooming career before acting rashly. Kingdom loyalists were not about to turn on their beloved dynasty for a celebrity mother who doesn't even want to adhere to these rules that they adore and have upheld for generations. Meghan Markle's entry into the royal family was once hailed by the modern masses as a modern fairy tale, a moment that promised to refresh a centuries-old institution. A progressive member was finally introduced as a top member of the household, a prophecy that promised to transition their society. When the rumors started spreading on her handling of the kids, surrogacy, and even her supposed want away from the royal household, this very praise and the act of being a media personality started to feel like a burden. Every tabloid, interview, and appearance always included the blockbuster question on her loyalty and treatment of her kids. People wanted answers, answers she didn't really possess, answers which could potentially further break down her now cracked celebrity lifestyle. The true catastrophe, however, arrived with the birth of Archie. It became evident that maybe this type of modernization is not what they wanted. Modernization in exchange for the death of protocol isn't what they wanted on the table. They themselves saw the cracks, and they made sure she heard. They asked questions, and she kept on beating around, not answering. Her frequent justifications involved her framing the secrecy as a desperate bid to protect her son from the press that she feared. This wasn't enough. How would you fear the press and still take pride in being a celebrity? It wasn't clear. As time went on, the damage bore deeper. The public narrative had shifted. The desire for privacy was no longer seen as a mother's instinct, but as a strategy to hide something. The decision to forego the traditional exercises was not viewed as a stand against an old age tradition, but as an excuse to avoid scrutiny. Scrutiny about what, though? No one knew. No one knew what she and her husband were hiding. Meghan's image was transformed. She was no longer just the progressive duchess in the court of public opinion. She was now seen as a dodgy figure, obsessed with control and secrecy. Every request for privacy started being viewed as an attempt to dodge responsibility. This same public who were willing to accept the children which the royal household rightly neglected were starting to have seeds of doubt planted. The rules weren't suggestions. No one was allowed to dodge centuries of protocol, no matter their popularity or how progressive they were perceived to be. For someone whose whole career rested on the title of royal, it was a problem. This same title, which her career loved dearly, was beginning to bite at her. It was a self-inflicted wound, a public relations disaster born from a miscalculation in a fight versus an institution where miscalculation was foreign. In these cases, the palace never saw the need for a press release or public statement, unlike the couple. Meghan, in her helplessness, sought a route which she saw fit, and her more reserved husband, Harry, sought another, a prince's plea and the palace's silence. Prince Harry was known by palace insiders and those around him as a man who possessed a deep love for his family and the crown. A steadfast man with a deep sense of duty to his bloodline, a fiercely loyal servant, and a deeply emotionally invested parent. This situation that involved both sides of his eating at him was truly a dilemma. For a parent that wanted the best for his child, just the rumors were enough to unsettle him and generate worry. As a fiercely loyal servant, he saw what his family had done wrong and was not lost on the gravity of the offense. Not just on the image of the crown, but on his and his family's title of royal servant. Then worse, as an emotionally invested parent, he knew the very future of his two children were in danger. Not just the literal danger of fame without protection of the crown, but the danger on their very image and future in British politics. He had to make his own moves to correct this. As the whispers grew into a deafening tone across the globe, a father's desperate battle was being fought behind the closed doors of the monarchy. Prince Harry, watching the public narrative spiral out of control, found himself in a truly painful position. This was no longer about press intrusion. It was about the very identity of his children. Driven by a father's protective instinct, he began a series of panicked, passionate phone calls, reaching out to key figures within the palace in a desperate attempt to find a resolution. He wasn't a prince demanding his due. He was a father pleading for his children. He sought clarity, reassurance, some form of public defense from the institution he was born to serve. He looked at it as an appeal not to protocol but to family, hoping to find a human response in the heart of the rigid monarchy. But his emotional pleas were met with an icy wall of indifference, a silent wall. The silence that the crown presented to his phone calls was deafening. A simple plea could not just correct his mistakes of cracking the walls of centurial structure. The conversations were reportedly frustrating and circular, with his personal anguish being deflected by the cold, unmovable mirror of royal procedure. He fought a battle of a warrior torn between his love for family and his duty to his background. The prince begged, the public scrutinized. The duchess continued existing in her own way. The children couldn't even participate or even understand all this. But still, everyone was looking on, waiting for the final decision of those at the center of it all, the main characters. Yes, the palace's move. This brilliant move by the palace was definitely calculated. In all its nature, it would never be expected to make the amount of noise that it did. It was a quiet move, one that said a few words but communicated thousands. A simple reinstation of what was already in place. A reminder of the rigidity that the royal household was meant to uphold. A reminder that none of the royals were above this rigidity. It was clear the palace was not prepared to bend tradition, even for a prince and his children. In the chaotic war of headlines and explosive interviews, Buckingham Palace deployed its most ancient and powerful weapon, silence. This was not the silence of indecision or weakness. It was a deliberate, calculated move, a form of communication understood by insiders and those connected for generations. Even the common observers of the palace knew. The monarchy, an institution that has weathered centuries of scandal and rebellion, does not engage in public fights. It asserts its authority not through loud rebuttals, but through the quiet, unyielding enforcement of its own rules. Its silence basically just reminds you that those who offend are not worth the crown. When Harry and Meghan chose to sidestep the rigid protocols of a royal birth, they unknowingly stepped outside of royal recognition. They wanted the world to celebrate their children as royals, yet they refused to follow the very procedures that legitimize that status. To the palace, this was a huge contrast. The institution's response was therefore surgical, like that of a chess master, by refusing to comment, by withholding formal recognition, by refusing to correct a member's foolish mistake, and by allowing the official records to remain glaringly empty. The palace drew a line in the English sand without uttering a single word. This silence was a message, and it was brutally effective. It signaled that tradition would not bend to celebrity, and that emotion could not override procedure. The unspoken truth was clear. If you operate outside the system will not protect you. This quiet eraser from the formal narrative, the absence of the children in official portraits and registries, was more potent than any press release. It was a declaration that within the historic ledger of the crown, their status remained uninscribed and therefore unofficial. They allowed the rumors to grow, knowing that the speculation was born from a situation the Sussexes themselves had created, and that in the end, the sheer power of their quiet decree would kill it. In the end, the quiet, empty pages of the royal archives spoke louder than any accusation, serving as the monarchy's final chilling word on the matter. This, however, ended up serving as a double-edged sword. Lack of a clear statement would always bring about speculation. The court of public opinion, with the palace refusing to speak, the hope for an official narrative died, and the story was thrown to the wolves. The story became a playground for bloggers, tabloids, outlets, and royal analysts alike. There was all but one narrative that remained. Procedure trumps emotion. Regardless of this, from the archivists and commentators who were the first to bring attention to the case to the broken protocols and missing entries in the official record, these elements all laid the path for tabloids and social media, who in turn took these inconsistencies and spun them into wild, sensational theories of deception and whatnot spread across the internet like wildfire. It was a statement of intent, one that affirmed England's rule would continue with its full strength. It reminded everyone that royal blood does not automatically guarantee recognition. a declaration that there is no liminal space for a royal. It's either you are in or out. The statement affirmed that modern media strategy and personal conviction could never outweigh centuries-old rules and protocol. It was a show of steadiness from the rulers of Buckingham Palace, a proper statement left to you. Do you believe in the surrogacy rumors surrounding the Duke and Duchess? And could they have found a better way to ensure their privacy without fueling the very rumors they were trying to escape? What would you do? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.